What do you do if the tips on your shears pull? Let's talk about it. If you're new to my channel, we have a lot of videos on sharpening. I just had a guy come in this morning that I'll be training him tomorrow, and he said his wife was so sick of hearing my voice and seeing my face. But if you do like to hear my voice and see my face and learn more about sharpening, put like down there, subscribe, and check out my channel. I've got a lot of sharpening videos. And those of you that watch me regularly, this is a really important thing, is about the tips on tips. And this is a shear. I don't even know the story on it. It was in my to be checked. It looks like it's been sharpened once. It's got, I'm not sure what this number on. Maybe it was a return. But this one, I was checking it out. Misty put some here for me to check out. And this one, it cuts dry fine. Do you see that? No problem. If I wet this, you see that? And it's not cutting well, and it's pulling. If I'm cutting hair, it's cutting the hair pretty good. Sometimes you get them where you'll actually snag the hair. I just did a sharpening evaluation for the International Scissor Sharpeners Association, and the guy would have passed. Just the tips pulled hair, and one of them, when you cut with it, you could feel it snagging the hair, which could be a problem. This one, if I were to give it back to a customer or hairstylist, and she's cutting with it, she probably would be fine with it. Wouldn't be a problem. But I would like to have that cut a little better. So I'm going to give you all the different ways to improve the way the tip of your shears cut. And it could be a multitude of different problems with it. Number one, if you know you've sharpened it correctly. If you're having a consistent problem with the tips, maybe there's something in your technique. If it's just a one-off, you know, that seems to have a problem, these are the things I would do to look at and address it. Sometimes the tips are not meeting. Let's start with that. You may have to bend the handle. You might need to trim the bumper. Bring the tips together. Sometimes the tips meet, but they don't quite cross. Then, you know, maybe a little bit coming together a little bit more. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes they go too far and you need to move them out. That can be done with the bumper or the handle. That would be the number one thing. Number two, kind of run your finger over there and see if it's maybe one side is up higher or has a little bit of a outside burr, and you need to just kind of buff that off. That would be a second problem to happen. The third one is sometimes that edge just needs a little bit more bite to it, should I say. Actually a little rougher instead of smoother. Maybe when you polished it you rounded it off and it's causing it to not cut cleanly. I'm thinking that's the problem with this one. What I would do is grab my nail buffer, and let me grab one here. Here's my handy dandy nail buffer. I particularly like these. You can buy them at beauty supplies. The ones that we carry, I like them because they'll tell you what grit they are. 240, 320, 1000, and 3000. 3000 is where I always start. And I'm just gonna go over using this much pressure, like you'd put makeup on your face. You guys might not know what I'm talking about. Here, it's flat to the edge. Always finish with the edge, with the inside. Always finish with the inside. And this way, and this way, with a concentration at the tip where I have the problem. Now let's test it. You see that? That fixed it. That easy. Yeah, that easy. Now, let's say that didn't fix it. So then I might go to the 1000 grit. do that on the outside, on this side of it. The inside, I would never go with anything rougher than the 3000 on this. And so, and then if that doesn't, you could go up to rarely the 320. Usually this is going to be enough. Let's say that doesn't work. You may want to, if it's just pulling just a teeny tiny bit, maybe a couple of millimeters, you could shorten it. No one's going to miss those couple of millimeters. What I do if I shorten it, when I cut with it, let's see if I can make it snag on something. Oh, when I cut with it, I'm going to pretend like it's, let's just pretend like there's a little piece stuck on here. I would leave that on there, go into my machine, shorten it down to that little piece that's hanging on, flies off. And I have some other videos on that. You can find them. And just take off the part that doesn't cut. That's the easiest way. If all of those don't work and it's still not cutting at the tip, you may want to look and see if you've got the rod line is correct, if you did the rod line flat, are there nicks here, are there things going on, and you may just need to take it apart and sharpen it again. The last resort, and I have done this on cheaper scissors without bothering to take them apart, without checking them on the alignment bar. If I look at them and I see the blade, yeah, I don't know if you can see in this thing where the blade actually has a curve here, and that blade has a curve. You see, it has a curve. It's supposed to have a curve. If I look at it and I see like one blade is straight, it's not, it doesn't have a curve to it, I might go in, and it's a cheap scissor, not an expensive one. This is an expensive one. I might go in and tweak it so the tips come together a little bit more without taking it apart. But if it's a good shear, you may want to put it on alignment bar, check the alignment, do some bending and hammering or whatever. But those are last resorts for the tip not cutting. And if you break a pair of shears, I told you that was the last resort, and tell your customer before you start bending and hammering or whatever crazy things you want to do to them. Say, hey, these are, say, your little babies, can't be treated as an outpatient. I have to take these back to the hospital. They're going to be intensive care, and there's a chance they may not make it. I just want to let you know I can do some things maybe to make them cut, but I won't be able to bring them back to like new unless we do this more extensive, I don't know if you want to use the word surgery or sharpening, or more extensive service to them. Because a lot of times if you can't get them to cut, you just go in and put a blunter angle on it, a little bit rougher ride line, don't do anything over 2000 grit, so you've got a little bit of grit to it. When you do the outside, don't do a whole lot of polishing so that you've got a little grip, a little bite to them, and you can make them cut. They may not slide cut, they may not slither, they may not cut like they were when they were new, but they're usable, they can cut. So you've got to figure out what your risk level is on making them work. You want to stop before you get to the point of no return. And everybody sees that point as differently. We are shear mechanics. We are like fix the brakes, put a new battery in the car, just simple type of things. We are not like a collision center where we're rebuilding an automobile. That's sort of what I look at with our shears. We're basically a fast change, oil change. So if you have that mentality, if you have to do some major work on a pair of shears to get them to cut, I would ask them if they would like to trade them in on a new pair of shears. Then you take them home and you do whatever you want to with them. So those are my tips on tips. Don't go too far past the point of no return unless the shears belong to you. And you ask permission. But even if you ask permission, you'll always be the person that broke their shears. Even if you give them a new pair. It's I I just not a bender and a hammerer. But we will be having a class at the Sharpeners Jam, and we usually do every year on bending and hammering and setting the alignment on shears, because I think it's to be an educated sharpener, you need to know that. And I do know that, but I only do it on shears that belong to me. Or if you give me permission,